Hello everybody and everybody else. My name is ScrypKat and this is ScrypKat Says. On this channel we take a look at First Amendment auditors, sovereign citizens, cop watchers, cop baiters, and Karens from a slightly different angle. If you're new here, welcome. If you've been here before, welcome back. I read every comment I receive and appreciate every one of them. You all have given me many great ideas. Keep your eye on the channel. You might see one of your suggestions come to life. As the intro states, today we're going to look at boundaries. Now, obviously, we're not talking geographic or artistic boundaries. We're talking about societal and emotional boundaries. So, what are societal or social boundaries? According to the Brecht Forum, quote, social boundaries are types of rules that are considered common because most of the people living in that society agree that they are the standards that people should follow. Social boundaries allow people to evaluate others quickly, unquote. That last sentence is very important. Sizing others up quickly is important for the safety of the group or community. A couple of examples might be helpful to illustrate. In Japan, it is considered aggressive behavior to show your teeth when smiling. Among the Navajo, raising your voice is only done in emergency situations. Otherwise, it is considered disturbing to the community order. Other boundaries could include keeping your hands to yourself, respecting someone's personal space, or leaving other people's things alone. What most people would consider basic common sense. These are normally taught us as children, right along with good manners. These boundaries are immediately broken when a stranger enters a limited public forum with a camera. There might be 20 people in that space, all politely ignoring each other, but the camera creates a tension in the crowd. Most people present are thinking, "I'm not ready for my close-up, Mr. DeMille." All, however, are aware that photos or video taken are not going to stay on the cameraman's phone or GoPro. It matters not what his intention is. It matters not if he says anything. The business of business is suddenly interrupted.
In this video, I will share with you what boundaries are, examples of different types of boundaries, and how to recognize and define your own boundaries. Information in this series can be used for any type of relationship, romantic relationships, friend and family relationships, as well as work relationships. Protecting yourself is made easier by using boundaries. Like this glass barrier protecting a child at the zoo, a boundary can help you protect yourself from being harmed. A boundary is a limit you can set on what you will accept of another person's words or actions. In this video, we will focus on material, physical, mental, and emotional boundaries. But first, I'd like to clear up a common misconception about boundaries. Some people think that boundaries are harmful for a relationship. They think boundaries only keep people apart, like a wall preventing communication and intimacy. The purpose of a healthy boundary is not to keep people out of your life. It is intended to protect you from bad elements, such as harassment and manipulation. Once you start using boundaries in your relationships, you will see that boundaries actually keep people together in a healthy way. Once boundaries are respected, people are less likely to fight or end relationships. Perhaps you've heard the expression, "Good fences make good neighbors." It's true for all types of relationships. If you've been on a flight, you've been instructed to put on your own oxygen mask before helping others. This is good advice for other aspects of your life. Not taking care of yourself first can cause dissatisfaction and burnout. It can also lead to resentment. So taking care of yourself is not only good for you, it's good for others in your life. Although I am focusing on boundaries you need to set in order to protect yourself in this 3-part series, you do need to extend the same respect to others. This also provides an example for others to know what behavior you find appropriate. So here's a description of the types of boundaries. We're starting with an easy one, material boundaries. This includes the lending and care of your personal belongings and your time and services. An example that includes a personal belonging as well as your time and labor is common to those who own pickup trucks. If you have a pickup truck, you've likely been asked by someone to help them move. A big issue for physical boundaries is personal space. This refers to the physical space around your body. Coming too close can be accidental, or it can be an attempt to intimidate you. You have the right to dictate who can touch you. An example of how you prefer to be touched means that if you prefer a handshake to a hug, the other person should respect that. If you don't want to be touched on certain parts of your body, or at a specific time or social context, that should also be respected. This is also the basis for healthy sexual boundaries. As for mental boundaries, it's less defined and it's easier to cross the line. It's easier to remember not to touch another person or to get too close, but it's often more difficult for a person to realize when they've crossed the line from being persuasive to aggressive. Trying to persuade another person can turn into intimidation, manipulation, shaming, or even a shouting match when boundaries have been crossed. If you find you're constantly having to defend your thoughts, values, opinions, or beliefs, setting and enforcing boundaries can help you avoid unnecessary stress from others. We have progressed from what are generally considered the easiest to the most difficult of boundaries. Emotional boundaries can be difficult for many people to recognize and define because our culture seems to have far more bad examples than good examples of emotional boundaries. People who have indistinct emotional boundaries find that their thoughts, feelings, and moods depend on other people's thoughts, feelings, or moods. This is a common trait of codependency. The main points to know about emotional boundaries deal with your identity and awareness of your choices. It's okay, and in fact, it's healthy to have your own identity and to be your own person. You don't need to define yourself by your relationships to other people. Your job, your marital status, your family, those things affect your responsibilities, but you are not responsible for the burden of how other people think you should feel or how you believe they think you should feel. It's important to be aware that you are in control of your feelings, and your feelings are a choice. Just as your feelings are a choice, other people have the choice of how they feel, and they are responsible for those choices. So you don't need to carry the weight of their feelings. This is not to say you're off the hook for your actions, because you are responsible for how you treat other people, but not how they feel about it. If you feel responsible for another person's feelings, you are only making yourself unnecessarily vulnerable and easier to manipulate. This can make ending an unhealthy relationship difficult because a manipulative person can take advantage of the situation, making the vulnerable person who lacks emotional boundaries feel guilty for wanting to end a relationship. Feelings of guilt over the manipulative person's hurt feelings can keep a vulnerable person trapped in an unhealthy relationship. Now that you know more about boundaries, the first step is to define your boundaries. Perhaps there was an instance in which someone offended or upset you. When they crossed that invisible line, they crossed your boundary. Think of moments like that, and it might help to write it down. Think of what upsets or offends you. Also think about who has upset you. Quite often, the same person is the one who makes most of these errors.
While that video centered more on personal boundaries, the core ideas can be carried over into our social or societal lives as well. Boundaries in a social setting are commonly known as laws, including statutes and ordinances, policies or rules. All are valid and all are necessary for the smooth operation of a society, whether it be large or small. Join me next week when we discuss how boundaries can be enforced. Remember, ScrypKat says, when given a choice, choose to be kind. Bye for now.